January 1970. Ungano's Nightclub, New York City, late night. Past midnight. A young guitarist on stage. Nervous. Sweating. Playing for half an hour that he's not good enough. He knows it. The crowd knows it that he wants to leave. Pack up his guitar. Go home. Forget this ever happened. Then someone walks through the door, black guitar in hand. Buddy miles behind him. The young guitarist freezes that it's Jimi Hendrix. And Jimmy's about to do something that changes this kid's life forever. This is the story of the night Jimi stopped to jam with an unknown street musician. The moment famous Jimi helped a struggling guitarist find his confidence. And the lesson about generosity that shows who Jimi Hendrix really was. But first, let's understand Jimi's relationship with unknown musicians. With street players. With buskers. Because Jimi Hendrix was a street musician. 1965-1966. Greenwich Village, New York City. Before he was famous. Before he was Jimi. When he was still Jimmy James. This was after the Chitlin Circuit years. After backing Little Richard, Wilson Pickett, the Isley Brothers. After being fired for being too flashy. Jimi moved to Greenwich Village. The Bohemian Enclave. The nexus of folk music revival. Bob Dylan territory. Simon and Garfunkel. Peter, Paul, and Mary. He played at Café Wa on McDougal Street. Basement club. Low ceilings. Intimate. Dark. So dark that sometimes it seemed the neck of his Stratocaster would go through the roof. The Café Wa was a basket house. Musicians played for tips. Pass the hat. Spare change. Good night meant $5. Bad night meant $2. Jimi fronted the house band. Jimmy James and the Blue Flames. Him on lead guitar. Randy Wolf, later Randy California of Spirit, on rhythm. They played covers. Otis Rush. Albert King. Muddy Waters. Robert Johnson. Deep Chicago blues. Rural country blues. The records Jimi studied obsessively. But between gigs at Café Wa, he buskied. Played on the street. Washington Square Park. McDougal Street corners. Wherever people gathered, making $2 to $3 a day. Barely surviving that he lived in cheap hotels. Sometimes friends' apartments. Sometimes nowhere. Just walking the streets at night with his guitar, malnourished. Underweight. Struggling with self-esteem. Broke. Linda Keith, Keith Richards' girlfriend, British model, saw him playing one night at Café Wa. She was mesmerized. But she also noticed. This kid is starving. After the set, she invited him to a party. Discovered he was shy. Polite. Perfectly charming. But suffering. Lack of money. Lack of nutrition. Lack of confidence. Linda felt she had to help. She went back to her upscale hotel room. Grabbed one of Keith Richards' Fender Stratocasters. A white one. Expensive. Gave it to Jimi. That guitar changed everything. Jimi finally had a professional instrument. Something worth the talent in his fingers. Linda did more. She spread the word. Told every British rock star she knew about this incredible guitarist in Greenwich Village. Told the Rolling Stones. Told Andrew Loog Oldham. Told producer Seymour Stein. They came. They watched. They weren't impressed. Rejected him. But Linda didn't give up. She told Chas Chandler. 1966. Café Wa. July. Chas Chandler, bassist for the Animals, walks into the club. Animals were huge. House of the Rising Sun. British invasion. But Chas was transitioning. Wanted to become a manager. Looking for talent that he sees Jimmy James and the Blue Flames playing. Jimi on guitar. Randy Wolf, later Randy California of Spirit, on rhythm guitar. Chas watches Jimi play. Stunned. This kid is different. Playing behind his back. With his teeth. Feedback controlled like melody. Chas returns in September. Signs Jimi to a management deal. Changes his name to Jimi. Flies him to London. 3 months later, December 1966. Hey Joe is a hit. May 1967. Are You Experienced album. Revolution. Jimi Hendrix went from street musician to superstar in less than a year, but he remembered. He never forgot being that broke kid in Greenwich Village. Fast forward. January 1970. Jimi's been famous for 3 years. Biggest guitarist in the world. Woodstock. Monterey. Isle of Wight. But he's exhausted. Band of Gypsies just played 4 shows at Fillmore East. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. The recordings will become the Band of Gypsies album. But the band itself is falling apart. Buddy Miles and Jimi clashing. Billy Cox caught in the middle. Jimi needs to decompress. Needs to just play. Without pressure. Without expectations. So he goes to clubs. Small venues. Jams with whoever's playing. Ungano's Nightclub. 210 West 70th Street, New York City. Not a famous venue. Just a neighborhood spot. Live music. Late nights. This particular night, Jimmy walks in with Buddy Miles. Black guitar in hand. Inside, a very young guitarist is on stage. Playing for about half an hour. He's struggling. Notes not quite right. Timing off. Confidence evaporating with every mistake. The crowd is polite but unimpressed. Standard nightclub indifference. The young guitarist can feel it. That sinking feeling. I'm not good enough. I should stop. He starts to pack up. Ready to leave. Embarrassed. Then Jimi Hendrix walks in. The owner recognizes him immediately. Jimmy shakes his hand. Asks if he doesn't mind them playing a bit. The owner obviously says yes. Word spreads instantly. 3 telephone booths near the entrance fill up. Everyone calling friends. Get down here. Jimi Hendrix just walked in. Less than an hour later, the club is packed. Jimmy walks to the stage. Buddy Miles finds a drum stool big enough to support his weight. The young guitarist sees Jimmy approaching. Panics. Starts to leave. Jimmy stops him. Hey man, you don't have to leave. Can we play together? The kid is terrified. Awestruck. Jimi Hendrix wants to jam with him. I'm not that good. Jimmy smiles. That's okay. Let's just play. A French writer named Sacha Reins happened to be in the club that night, writing for French entertainment magazine Best, issue 39, that he was about to leave. Getting late. Then he looked to the door. Shock. Jimi Hendrix standing there. Black guitar in hand. Buddy Miles following. Jimmy shook hands with the club owner. Asked if he minded them playing a bit. The 3 telephone booths near the entrance immediately occupied. Everyone calling friends. Get down here now. Jimi Hendrix just walked in. Sacha Reins stayed. Watched. Documented everything. Less than an hour later, the club was packed. Word spread through the Manhattan night scene like wildfire. Jimmy walked to the stage. Buddy Miles searching for a drum stool big enough to support his enormous weight. Finding one. Setting up. The very young guitarist, he'd been playing for half an hour, wanted to leave. He was done. Exhausted. Embarrassed. Ready to pack up and go home. Jimmy stopped him. This is the moment Sacha Reins captured perfectly. He doesn't want to play anymore. Jimmy stops him and asks him if they can play together. Imagine that. You're a nobody. You're struggling. You're about to quit. And Jimi Hendrix, the greatest guitarist in the world, asks if you'll jam with him. The kid probably couldn't speak. Just nodded. They tried out a rather quick number. Up-tempo blues. Standard jam structure. But Jimmy did something completely unexpected. Something that reveals his character. Sacha Reins wrote. Jimmy intentionally stays in the background. Not showing off. Not dominating. Not stealing the spotlight. Just supporting. Playing rhythm. Holding space. Creating foundation. Waiting. He waits until the young guitarist regains his confidence. This is crucial. Jimmy understood. This kid is nervous. Terrified. Playing with his hero. If Jimmy explodes into a solo immediately, the kid will freeze. Will feel inadequate. Will shrink. Jimmy waits. Plays simple. Supportive. Patient. Gradually, the young guitarist starts to relax. His fingers find the right notes. His timing locks in. His confidence returns. He's not just playing. He's playing well. Jimmy notices. Nods. Smiles. Musical cues. You got this. Now it's time. Then he takes his turn. Sacha Reins documented what happened next. He plays short phrases with long silence intermissions during which one only hears the strong and regular pulsations of Buddy Miles. This is master-level playing, not technical showmanship. Musical storytelling. Jimmy starts sparse. Minimalist. Space between notes. Let the groove breathe. Just short phrases. Blues licks. Simple but perfect. During the silences, you hear Buddy Miles' drums. Steady. Pulsating. Hypnotic. The club falls silent. Listening. Waiting for the next phrase. The silences become shorter and shorter. Jimmy starts connecting the phrases. Building momentum. The spaces between notes shrinking. The phrases are less and less chopped up. They become enchained, stupefying. Now it's flowing. Continuous. One phrase leading into the next. Building. Intensifying. Jimmy had found his groove. That moment. Every musician knows it. When you stop thinking. When the music plays itself. And under his fingers the strings tell us strange stories that we don't fully comprehend. The guitar isn't an instrument anymore. It's a voice. Speaking. telling stories without words. The young guitarist watches, mesmerized, learning in real time. This is how you build a solo. This is how you create tension and release. This is how you communicate emotion through 6 strings. The crowd is transfixed, silent between phrases, exploding with applause when Jimi pauses. This isn't a concert. This is an entertainment. This is a masterclass, happening spontaneously at 1 a.m. in a small club in Manhattan, free, unplanned, pure. The jam continues. Maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30. Nobody's watching the clock. Jimi and the young guitarist trading solos. Jimi encouraging him with nods, smiles, musical cues. The kid is playing better than he's ever played in his life because Jimi's not competing with him. He's elevating him, making space for him to shine. Eventually, the jam winds down. Natural conclusion. Musical conversation complete. Jimi unplugs, shakes the young guitarist's hand. You did good, man. Keep playing. Then he's gone. Back out into the New York night. The young guitarist stands there, stunned, transformed. 10 minutes ago, he wanted to quit, give up music, go home defeated. Now, he's on fire, confident, inspired. He just jammed with Jimi Hendrix. And Jimi didn't make him feel small, didn't humiliate him. Jimi lifted him up. This wasn't an isolated incident. Jimi did this constantly, throughout his career. Whenever he could, he'd show up at small clubs, unannounced, asked to sit in, not to show off, not to steal the spotlight, to play, to connect, to support, because Jimi remembered what it was like to be unknown, to struggle, to doubt yourself, and he remembered the people who helped him. Linda Keith giving him that Stratocaster, Chas Chandler believing in him. Jimi paid it forward. Every chance he got. Leslie West, guitarist for Mountain, told a similar story. 1 a.m. New York nightclub, 1970, around the same time as the Ungano's incident. Leslie was there to see Steve Miller. Show was over. Miller had left. Jimi walked in. Saw Leslie. Want a jam, man? They didn't have equipment. But Leslie had a loft 13 blocks away. Jimi said, let's get in my limo. 2 a.m. They showed up at the loft. Woke up Leslie's road manager. The guy came down. Opened the door. Saw Jimi Hendrix standing there. Nearly had a heart attack. They went upstairs. Jammed for hours. Jimi playing bass. Leslie on guitar. Leslie later said, I think Jimi could have played with anybody. He just loved playing. And he was so cool as a guy. That's my favorite memory of him. John McLaughlin, jazz fusion legend, had a different experience. March 25, 1969. Record Plant, New York. Big jam session. Loud. Chaotic. Multiple guitarists. McLaughlin was there with wrong guitar. Couldn't hear himself. Disaster, but Jimi was kind. Patient. Even though the jam was a mess. McLaughlin later said. He was a sweet guy. We had a chance to talk. He was totally unpretentious. He was a one-man revolution on the guitar. It was unbelievable what he was doing. Back to Ungano's. That young guitarist that we don't know his name. He disappeared into history. Never became famous. But that night changed his life. Maybe he kept playing music. Maybe he taught guitar. Maybe he told the story to his kids. The night Jimi Hendrix jammed with me. That one moment of generosity. That one act of kindness. Ripples through time. Here's what's remarkable about Jimi. He was the biggest guitarist in the world. Could have played anywhere. With anyone, Madison Square Garden, Royal Albert Hall, Woodstock, but he chose small clubs. Unknown musicians. Late-night jams. Not for publicity. Not for money. Just to play. Just to connect. Because that's who Jimi was. Underneath the fame. Underneath the myth that he was a musician who loved music. Who remembered his roots. Who lifted others up. Compare this to other rock stars. How many of them would stop for an unknown street musician? How many would patiently help a struggling guitarist find his confidence? Very few. Most rock stars create distance. Build walls. Protect their mystique. Jimi did the opposite. He broke down walls. Connected. Shared. That's why people loved him. Not just for his playing. For his spirit. The Ungano's story is documented. Sacha Reins wrote about it. Published in Best magazine. It's a footnote in Jimi's history. Barely remembered. But it reveals everything about who he was. Famous Jimi stopping to help unknown guitarist. No cameras. No press. No publicity. Just kindness. Just generosity. Just music. January 1970. 8 months before Jimi dies. He's at a crossroads. Band of gypsies falling apart. uncertain about his future, exhausted, but he still takes time to help a struggling kid. That's character. That's integrity. That's why Jimi Hendrix is immortal. Not just because he revolutionized guitar, because he remained human. Think about that young guitarist at Ungano's point. 10 minutes of Jimmy's time changed his life. Maybe he never became famous. Maybe he never made a record, but he had that moment, that memory, that inspiration. I jammed with Jimi Hendrix, and he was kind to me. That's worth more than fame, more than money. That's transcendence. Jimi Hendrix, street musician who became a superstar, but never forgot where he came from. Never forgot being broke, hungry, unknown. So when he saw that young guitarist struggling, ready to quit, he stopped, asked to jam, stayed in the background, waited for the kid to find his confidence, then showed him what's possible. That's legacy. Not just the albums, not just Woodstock, the moments of kindness, the lives touched, the inspiration shared. January 1970. Ungano's Nightclub. A young guitarist wanted to quit. Jimi Hendrix stopped him, jammed with him, changed his life. Nobody remembers that kid's name, but somewhere, maybe, he's still playing guitar, still telling the story. The night Jimi Hendrix believed in me. That's who Jimmy was. That's why we'll never forget him.